All right, listen up. This is an urgent security advisory. We're tracking a critical vulnerability chain in Versa Concerto, and we've codenamed it Operation Fog of War. This is not a drill. The exploit chain carries a CVSS score of 10.0. For anyone not tracking, that's the maximum possible score. It's an absolute worst-case scenario, allowing for a complete, unauthenticated system takeover. And I want to be crystal clear. This is not some theoretical threat you read about in a paper. It's being actively exploited in the wild right now. As of this past January, CISA has officially added it to their known exploited vulnerabilities catalog, which means federal action is already mandated. So the objective of this advisory is simple. First, to give you, the defenders, immediate and actionable intelligence to protect your perimeter. And second, to shine a light on the communication breakdown that let this threat fester. Our goal is to lock this down now. Okay, before we dive into the technicals, let's initiate protocol. The intelligence I'm about to share is extremely time-sensitive. To get these advisories the second they drop, you need to activate notifications. Look, this isn't about viewership, it's a security necessity for getting real-time threat intel. We need to know this intel is reaching the front lines, so treat a like on this briefing as your formal acknowledgement of receipt. And finally, we need to conduct a quick blast radius census for the community. Report your status in the comments. Are you patched or are you still vulnerable? This helps everyone gauge the risk. So what's the impact here? It's a full system compromise. We are talking about an attacker gaining complete control not just of the Versa Concerto application, but of the underlying host system it's running on. Game over. Now for context, Versa Concerto is a major player in the SD-WAN orchestration space. You'll find it inside large enterprises, service providers, and even government agencies, managing their core network security. A compromise here has massive, widespread implications. What makes this so incredibly dangerous is how several different vulnerabilities are chained together. See, this isn't just one bug. It's a sophisticated, multi-step attack path that escalates from a simple bypass all the way to total system ownership. The kill chain has 4 distinct stages. It starts with an authentication bypass to get a foot in the door. From there, the attacker pivots by accessing sensitive internal system controls. These are the actuator endpoints. Step 3 is exploiting a timing flaw, a race condition, to actually execute code. And the final step, a container escape to compromise the host itself. So, the whole thing kicks off with CVE 2025-34027. It's a really clever authentication bypass. See, because of an inconsistency in how URLs are processed, an attacker can use a semicolon to craft a URL that basically fools the security filter, but still gets executed by the backend. And just like that, they have unauthorized access to a file upload endpoint. Now for the pivot. This is CVE 2025-34026. The application is designed to trust a specific header, the XRailIP header, to figure out if a request is coming from inside the network. External requests trying to hit sensitive actuator endpoints get blocked. But the traffic reverse proxy has a flaw. And the technique is just brilliant in its simplicity. By setting the connection header to XRailIP, the attacker basically tells the proxy to drop the very header the application is using for its security check. So the request arrives without the XRailIP header, the app assumes it must be an internal request, and boom, the attacker gets access to logs, heap dumps, and session tokens. The final blow is CVE 2025-34025. Once an attacker can execute code inside the application's Docker container, they can escape to the host machine itself. And this is possible because of a critical misconfiguration. The container has the host's binary directories, like /usr/bin, mounted directly. So an attacker can just overwrite a common system command like test with a reverse shell, wait for a cron job on the host to run it, and they've got full control. All right, let's get to the most important part of this advisory, the actionable steps you absolutely must take to defend your systems. This is the immediate mitigation protocol. You've got 4 steps. Priority 1. And I mean number 1 with a bullet, is to patch. Upgrade to Versa Concerto version 12.2.1 GA or later immediately. If for some reason you can't patch right away, implement 2 emergency WAF rules. Block any URL that has a semicolon in it, and drop any request where the connection header contains XRailIP. And finally, as a basic hardening best practice, make sure your management interfaces are never, ever exposed to the public internet. Now, let's talk about why this public disclosure was even necessary. This whole case is a textbook example of what we called the fog of war in the vulnerability disclosure process. It was a dangerous breakdown in communication.
The timeline here tells the whole story. Researchers reported the flaws back in February 2025. The vendor, Versa, actually released a patch on April 16th. But, and this is the critical part, they failed to notify the researchers who found the bugs. So, believing the vulnerabilities were still unpatched after their 90-day deadline, the researchers did the responsible thing and published their findings on May 21st to warn users. The result was just widespread confusion and ultimately active exploitation in the wild, which CISA later confirmed.
And you don't have to take my word for it. The vendor's own statement to Bleeping Computer confirms the breakdown. They claimed a fix was out in April, but admitted, quote, this information didn't reach the researchers. That communication gap left the entire ecosystem exposed and defenders completely in the dark. And this gets to the very core of coordinated vulnerability disclosure. When a vendor goes silent and you don't know the patch status, disclosure stops being a negotiation and becomes a duty. The number one priority has to be protecting the users, who must be alerted to the active risk they're facing. So this entire incident really serves as a critical lesson. It forces us to ask a question that goes way beyond a simple technical fix. Sure, you may have patched your systems against this specific threat, but is your communication protocol, both with your vendors and inside your own teams, ready for the next one? That concludes this advisory. Stay vigilant, stay secure.